Welcome to Missouri Sports Talk. I'm your host, Cameron Staley. Today I'm here with
Easton D'Amelia.
Easton, week of 420 large school predictions. I went 12-5 last week. What did you do?
Well, sometimes you just got the same week, and I went 12-5 as well. So I dropped one, and we just got to get back to the win column.
All right, we tied. So I'm currently up in our matchup history 2-1 to 1, the one tie now. So let's go ahead with last week's scores. Class 4. Nevada defeated Lamar 8-0. That's a pretty good win for Nevada. Fulton wins a close one against Kirksville. They would have liked to win a little bit better than that. Ends up being 5-4. Moberly defeats Benton by 10. That's a solid win for the Spartans. Logan Rogersville, a big win over a Class 6 Carthage school, 5-4. Fairgrove beats Stratford in extra innings 3-2. And Tolton defeats St. Michael by 10.
Well, looking at this, I mean, there's a lot of blowouts that I wasn't really expecting. Nevada versus Lamar, I thought that'd be a close one. They took care of business. Moberly versus Benton. I mean, Benton's returning finalist, so you expect that one to be close. Tolton kind of surprised me there. I did not expect a 10-point margin.
The rankings for this week. Moberly comes in at number 1. They stick in their spot. Logan Rogersville has the 2. Father Tolton is 3. Summit Christian moves up to 4. This is a pretty solid team. They're not playing the most insane schedule, but, I mean, they keep winning, so we got to move them up a little bit, right? Number 5 is Fulton. Blair Oaks drops down to 6. Duchesne is 7. Southern Boone is 8. St. Michael makes the rankings at 9. MICDS is 10. Who dropped for St. Michael? Do you remember? I can hold on. Sorry, guys. So let me go figure that out real quick. So Class 4, Stratford dropped out. The predictions for this week. Odessa hosts Southern Boone tonight. Blair Oaks also hosts tonight. Tomorrow, Nevada is hosting on the 26th. We got a triangular, Forsyth, Logan Rogersville, and Duchesne. That's a pretty big one. So, obviously, those 3 teams, they play each other. On the 29th, St. Michael and Fulton will be hosting. Those are 2 pretty big games. So Odessa and Southern Boone tonight, I feel like I just got to go with the Eagles. I mean, they're having a solid season so far. It was a rough start, but they picked it up. They're scoring 6.5 runs per game on average, and they are 4-0 against Odessa since 2021.
Yeah, I feel like the Eagles are kind of going back to the way they need to be. They're being able to pitch, hit, and that's how you need to win. They're 14-6, and I think they're able to take care of business against Odessa.
Blair Oaks and Father Tolton. This doesn't quite make the Class 4 game of the week because we got one down the line that's a little bit bigger, but we got the number 3 versus the number 5 here. I will take Blair Oaks in a technical upset. I mean, these are the defending state champions. They've got a home game. Both of them are coming off of strong wins, Tolton over St. Michael and Blair Oaks over Union, which we'll talk about just a little bit later on in this video. Blair Oaks are scoring 4.9 runs a game. I mean, they've lost 9 games, but they're playing an insane schedule. And they're 4-1 at home this year, so I think they'll make it 5-1.
Yeah, Blair Oaks on the turf is a new thing, and that's working well. I think Blair Oaks is able to beat the Trailblazers. You said both teams coming off a big win. Tolton beat St. Michael's in a shocking way, 13-3. And I knew Blair Oaks could beat Union. I just wasn't 100% sure. They kind of took care of business, beat them 6-2. I feel like they're going to travel back home and find a way to get a victory against the Trailblazers.
Nevada versus Clinton. Now, I can't lie. Clinton's got a good record, but I don't know if they're playing the most insane competition. Nevada, they definitely played some tougher teams. They're sitting at 11-6 currently. I think the Tigers will win this game. They're scoring 7.3 runs a game on average, and the last 5 games against Clinton, they are 4-1 head-to-head.
Yeah, Nevada is one of the, I feel like, a tough team in the state in Class 4. We played them last year, and I knew that team was really good. They can pitch, they can hit, and that's all you can ask to do. And they're playing really well, and I feel like they carry this on against Clinton.
Forsyth versus Logan Rogersville. This is a triangular, as I mentioned earlier. So I believe Forsyth and Duchesne may play first, actually. Mm-hmm. And then obviously Logan Rogersville will play Duchesne as well. I feel like the goal for Forsyth and Duchesne, for both of them, is to get out of this weekend 1-1. They like to at least win a game. Logan Rogersville, I mean, they're going to want to get out of there 2-0, but they're playing 2 tough teams. Realistically, I could see all three of these teams going 1-1 and just, beating each other in a circle here. I do think Logan Rogersville beats Forsyth. Overall, Logan Rogersville, they're a tough team. They're playing a really insane schedule so far. They've got, I don't know if I want to necessarily call it a gauntlet, but they're playing a lot of really, really hard teams like Nixa and beating Carthage last week. Logan Rogersville, they're scoring 5.3 runs per game on average. They're 1-1 against Forsyth in matchup history. So these two teams aren't super familiar with each other.
Well, I think Low Rog turns that 2-1 in favor of them. They have multiple commons over Forsyth, including Springfield Catholic, Smithville, and Fair Grove. They're my number one team in Class 4. I think they sweep this day.
St. Michael versus Pembroke Hill. We've got Pembroke Hill in the rankings in Class 3 now. Same with St. Michael. Both of them have finally hit the top 10. I will go with the home team here. These are two really good offensive teams. St. Michael scored 9.6 runs a game, and they've won the last 4 against Pembroke Hill. I don't remember if Pembroke Hill has the favor in the matchup history overall, but, St. Michael, like I just said, they're 4 straight against Pembroke Hill, so I think they'll make it 5.
Well, I think Pembroke Hill kiboshes the streak. St. Michael's coming off a shocking loss against Tolton. I don't know how they'll respond, but the Pembroke Hill offense is crazy. They're averaging over 10 runs per game. I feel like this is going to be a slugfest, and that will be in favor of Pembroke Hill.
Our Class 4 game of the week is Fulton versus Moberly. Number 1 Moberly, number 5 Fulton. These are two crazy teams. You got to expect that both aces will be on the mound for this game. If it's my choice, I would like to see Ingle versus Milnes. Milnes is going to Lindenwood, and Ingle's going to, I think he's staying in Moberly, I believe. So this is going to be a crazy game. It might be 1-0. Overall, Moberly's a great team. They're scoring 7.4 runs a game. They're allowing 1.7 on average, so the pitching staff has been playing really well overall. Moberly beat them in the first game in extra innings. So, I don't know. I feel like this game really could go either way. But I'll just take Moberly defending their number 1 spot.
I'm going to take Fulton. They have 2 common opponents. Marshall, Fulton actually beat by 10, whereas Moberly lost. And then Hannibal, they beat them 2-1. Moberly lost 9-4. I think this Fulton team's in a groove. They're playing their best baseball they've played in the past few years. And I feel like they're able to get it done against Moberly.
Class 5 from this past week. Marshall defeated Bolivar 11-6. JC beats Warrensburg 11-3. Pacific and St. Charles did not happen. John Burroughs shuts out Luther North 10-0. Rockwood Summit last night defeated Eureka 4-3, a great game for them. And Blair Oaks goes to Union and gets it done 6-3.
Yeah, first looking at that Jefferson City Jays team, I think they're legit in this Class 4, and I really strongly think that they're where they deserve to be in the rankings. They've earned themselves there. They've played a lot of good teams. They're able to beat them. Blair Oaks versus Union. I was 50-50 either way. I had in my notes about positives about both sides. I picked Union, but Blair Oaks is a team that's finding their groove. This is about the point of the season last year where we made that push, and I feel like they're turning the right direction.
So the rankings, Vianney, they keep the number 1. Willard keeps the number 2. JC skyrockets all the way up to number 3. Festus is 4. Smithville has the 5. I believe they dropped from 3. Union is 6. Platte County 7. Marshfield drops a little bit down to 8. Rockwood Summit holds the 9 spot, and Carl Junction holds the 10. This week's predictions, I should say, for Class 5. We'll start off with Farmington hosting St. John. This one is tonight. Festus is hosting Hillsborough tonight as well. Platte County is hosting tomorrow. On, I think, Saturday, it's Carl Junction hosting and Westminster hosting, and then Rockwood will host on the 30th. I'm going to go with Farmington beating St. John. Farmington, they're 13-3. They're not playing like the most wild teams in the world, but they're raking up the wins. I did have St. John ranked in my Class 3 poll, but I feel like overall this is a larger school. It's going to be a little too much for them. Farmington's scoring 7.9 a game, and they are 7-3 against St. Genevieve in the last 10.
Yeah, Farmington actually recently snapped their 11-game winning streak, but then they got back in the win column, and I expect them to get back in it again and beat this St. Genevieve team.
Festus versus Hillsborough. Festus is a good team. They just lost to Seckman last night, though, so that's a weird loss. It really is a weird loss. So, this is a big rivalry. I could see potentially this being split right down the middle because it is a 2-game series. Festus hosts tonight, and then Hillsborough hosts tomorrow. I might end up going to one of these two. I'm not 100% certain yet, so don't quote me on it. But there is an opportunity where it splits, but I will go with Festus, especially tonight. It's a home game. They've got one of their better pitchers on the mound. I was told that Michigan, SLU, I think Lindenwood, and there's one other school are going to be there tonight scouting Festus's pitcher. So if that tells you anything, it seems like that's a pretty good player. So I will go with Festus. They're scoring 6.8 runs per game, and they're 17-3 against Hillsborough since 2010.
Yeah, I'm going to take Festus as well, even though in common opponents, Hillsborough is actually favored. I feel like this Festus team is a really good team, as you said. They have a really good pitcher on the mound, and I feel like they do split this series, though.
Platte County is hosting Kearney tonight. Kearney's had a weird year so far. Really expecting them to be a top 10 school, but, they're sitting at 10-7, so they've had some losses where they don't really want them. Platte County has been surprisingly good so far this year. We did see them have a pretty ugly loss to Staley. It was a run rule. But, overall, they're playing solid. Another loss that they had was Blair Oaks. That's a top 10 school. I think, for the most part, they've been losing to top schools in the state, though. So, it's not – I don't think they have any super ugly losses, but I could be wrong. They may have one really ugly loss. But they're scoring 8 runs per game. This matchup history, they're tied 14-14 since 2010. So I will go with Platte County breaking that up and being 15-14.
Well, I'm going to go the other way. I think Kearney's going to win this one. Obviously, Platte County's a very good team in Class 5, but I feel like this is the kind of turn that Kearney needs, and they're going to head in the right direction after this game.
The Class 5 game of the week, number 10, Carl Junction is hosting number 2, Willard. This is a really fun one. It is on Saturday. Carl Junction, they're a solid team, but Willard, man, they're looking really good. They're coming off a pretty solid showing at the Columbia baseball tournament this past weekend. One of their games that they won, it was in rain, and Blair Oaks was filling at the time, is what I was told. It ended up being 22-6 because there ended up being a lot of errors, and we know that Blair Oaks is a good team, so that was just kind of an interesting score overall. I will take Willard. They're scoring 10.2 on average, and they're 10-2 against Carl Junction since 2012.
Yeah, Carl Junction coming off a big win against Logan Rogersville where they took control of the game. But as you said, Willard is the top team in Class 5, and I'm excited to see what this team does in postseason.
I kind of singled out Blair Oaks there. I should also mention that they beat Jackson like 18-4, I believe. So it wasn't like it was just Blair Oaks losing by a lot. It was most teams that they played. I do think they lost to Staley, but that's number 2 in Class 6. So overall, Willard's a great team. Westminster versus Union on Saturday. I don't know what to think about this one because Union, they're a solid team. I think we got them at 6. But, Westminster, they're kind of sneaky, in all honesty. I will go with Union, though. They're scoring 8 runs a game, and they're 3-0 on the road this year so far.
Yeah, it was interesting how they built in their schedule a week off for Union. They had a week off, played Blair Oaks. They lost last night, but I feel like they rebound and find a way to beat Westminster.
Rockwood Summit versus Lindbergh. This is a big one. Number 5, Rockwood Summit. Lindbergh receiving votes in the polls. Didn't quite make it in Class 6. I will go with Lindbergh here. They're scoring 7.8 runs per game on average. They've got a really good offense. And the pitching staff's been playing pretty well so far as well. They're averaging 2.9 allowed per game.
Yeah, Rockwood Summit coming into this game on a 7-game winning streak, sweeping Eureka and Lafayette Wildwood during this time. Lindenberg coming off a sweep against Lafayette Wildwood. I do see Lindbergh winning this one. I have them ranked, so, I got to cheer for the boys that I'm having in the rankings.
Class 6 from this past week. Easton, this is a big one. I went to this game. It was number 1 Staley versus number 2 Francis Howell. I still had Howell as my number 1 in my polls. You and Zach did not agree with that. Staley grabs the number 1, and then the same exact day, they lose by 13 to Francis Howell. And I can't lie. I'm not completely out of the wrong here because I did also take Staley in this game. And my reasoning was like for not putting that number one is that I wanted to see him take it from the number one team. And boy, they did not take it. So Hal keeps their number one spot. They'll probably be there for the rest of the season if we're going to be honest. Ozark defeats Neosho 7-3. Nixa takes the number 5 spot from Rockbridge 6-0. Blue Springs South defeats Lee Summit 4-3. Lindbergh over Lafayette 4-1. And Liberty defeats Park Hill South 4-0. You have any thoughts from this week?
Wow, in the top left corner. I was not expecting that one. I was expecting that to be maybe like a 4-3 game, a 6-5 game, but instead Francis Howe took control early. I get the text from Cameron that the offense is crazy here for the Vikings, and I was like, okay, I guess I was just really wrong, and I probably have to make an apology, but Francis Howe is my number one and will be number one. Ozark beat Neosho. That one did not surprise me. But Nixa, Rockbridge, that was an exciting game. I actually took Rockbridge in this one, but Nixa is a solid team that we should all be looking towards in the postseason.
So the rankings for this week in Class 6. Howell moves up to the number one spot, obviously. Staley goes down to 2. Fort Zewant West holds the 3. Blue Springs South holds the 4. As I mentioned earlier, Nixa is up to number 5. Rockbridge slumps down 1 to number 6. Liberty North is up to 7. Liberty falls to 8. They actually lost to Liberty North, so that was a big thing in my rankings. Obviously, I had to put North above them because they won that game. Ozark is 9. Lee Summit 10. And receiving votes is Lindbergh. I think they had 1 vote. It was just
yep, that's me.
Number 10. So the picks for this week: Nixa versus Kickapoo. Now, this one is tonight. Ozark and Hickman both host tonight as well. On the 26th, it's Francis Howe. Liberty North and Staley host on the 30th. Nixa and Kickapoo, man, this one does not really go my way in the matchup history. That was something that you mentioned to me, but I look at you and I said, well, you know what you do? You just bend it and twist it. So, Kickapoo overall is 10-9 matchup history against Nixa, but Nixa is 7-6 against Kickapoo since 2014. So that'll be my talking point there. Nixa is scoring 7.3 runs per game on average. I'm going to go with the Eagles here.
Yeah, we saw how Nixa performs against the top-level competition. In that Columbia tournament, they played really well, and I think they're able to beat Kickapoo.
Ozark versus Lebanon. I'm going to go with Ozark here. They're scoring 6.8 runs a game. They're 2-2 against Lebanon since 2021. I think the Tigers will make it 3-2.
Yeah, they have some common opponents here, where Lebanon has played Carl Junction and Willard and lost. Ozark has beat both, so that is something I look towards too, and think this common opponents will play a factor in this game.
Hickman versus Boonville. This is a tough one to predict. Hickman's kind of iffy. They're sitting at 11-10. And, Boonville's kind of putting together some losses here lately. I feel like that's kind of what does it for me. I will go with the Cupies. They're scoring 5.5 on average, and they're 4-1 against Boonville since 2012.
Yeah, I think Hickman's bigger class. They play a lot tougher schedule, and I think that will actually propel them to win this one against Boonville.
Francis Howell versus Rockbridge is the Class 6 game of the week. Number 1, Howell. Number 6, Rockbridge. We moved them down 1. I'm going to go with Howell, obviously. I mean, they're completely dominant. I think they're the number 1 team in the state. A lot of national media is actually taking Vianney as number 1 in the state. I would love to see those two teams play. That would be a crazy game. But that's besides the point. I'm going to go with the Francis Howell Vikings in this game. They're scoring 6.4 runs a game on average, and the pitching staff's playing really well. They're only allowing 2.6 on average.
Yeah, I saw Rockbridge play. They're a really good team. I saw them play really well against a really good Blair Oaks team, but Francis Howell, I see, is the best team in the state, and I think they're able to take care of business versus Rockbridge.
Liberty versus Blue Springs South. This is number 4, Blue Springs South, and number 8, Liberty. I'm going to go with the away team here. Give me the Blue Springs South Jaguars. They're scoring 5.4 on average. They're allowing 2.9 a game.
Yeah, Liberty North having a big win against Liberty, but Blue Springs South actually played Lee Summit where Liberty North lost, and that common opponent kind of turns me towards Blue Springs South to win this one.
Staley versus Lee Summit is where we'll wrap it up. Staley 21-1. Their 1 losses to the number 1 team in the state, in our opinions. I will go Staley. They're 6.1 runs per game on average, and they're allowing 2.9 overall. this is a team that should make the Final Four.
Yeah, and that would be a tough Final Four game as they would have Francis House. So rematch part 2 we could see possibly in the future, but I see Staley winning this one. They've been dominant just outside of that one game, and they have 3 commons over Lee Summit, so I feel like that's a pretty easy choice.
That's all you got for today. Friday night highlights are next. I'm not 100% certain where I'm going yet, so stay tuned. This has been Missouri Sports Talk. See you next time.